The Valorian Empire had ruled the stars for 6,000 years. No one remembered a time before them. No one could imagine a time after. They had conquered worlds beyond counting. They had crushed rebellions and absorbed civilizations. They had mapped every corner of 3 galaxies and catalogued every species that walked, crawled, swam, or flew. The Empire knew everything. The Empire controlled everything. This was simply how the universe worked. Admiral Sarithi stood on the command deck of the Eternal Throne, the greatest warship ever built. She was tall and thin, with silver skin and 4 eyes that glowed soft blue. Her uniform was black and covered with medals from 100 campaigns. She had served the Empire for 200 years. She had never known defeat. Around her flagship, 1,200 warships held perfect formation. They called it the Tessellation. It was a sacred pattern, passed down through generations of admirals. Every ship knew its exact position. Every captain knew their exact role. The formation had never been broken. It had destroyed the Syndicate worlds in 3 days. It had crushed the Machine Collective in 7 hours. It was mathematical perfection made real. Today was a routine mission. The border world of Calith 7 had fallen behind on its tribute payments. The fleet was here to remind them of their obligations. It was simple work, almost boring. Admiral Sarithi watched the planet turn slowly below them and felt nothing but mild impatience. She wanted to return home. She had better things to do than frighten farmers. "Admiral," said her sensor officer. His voice was calm but confused. "We are detecting an anomaly." Sarithi turned her head slightly. "What kind of anomaly?" "A vessel, Admiral. It just appeared at the edge of our formation." "Appeared? From where?" The sensor officer touched his controls. His confusion deepened. "Unknown, Admiral. It did not come through any jump point we recognize. It simply arrived." Sarithi walked to the sensor display. A small dot blinked on the screen, surrounded by the vast spread of her fleet. The dot was tiny, almost insignificant, but it should not be there. "Identify it," she ordered. The officer worked his controls for a long moment. Then he looked up with an expression Sarithi had never seen on his face before. It took her a moment to recognize it. It was fear. "Admiral, the vessel does not match any known design. It is not in our databases. We have no record of this ship type. We have no record of this technology. We have no record of this species." Sarithi felt something cold move through her chest. This was impossible. The Empire knew every spacefaring species. They had been watching the stars for 6,000 years. Nothing could hide from them. Nothing could surprise them. "Show me," she said. The main screen flickered and displayed the unknown craft. It was small, perhaps the size of a shuttle. Its shape was strange, angular in some places and curved in others, as if the designer could not decide what they wanted. Its hull was a dull gray color. There were no weapons visible, no shields, no markings of any kind. It looked like something a child might build from scraps. "Hail them," Sarithi ordered. "All frequencies. Transmitting, Admiral." They waited. The small craft sat motionless among the giant warships. It looked absurd there, like an insect among mountains. Sarithi almost smiled. Whatever this thing was, it was clearly no threat. Perhaps it was a lost explorer from some primitive world. Perhaps it was a malfunction in their sensors. Either way, she would deal with it quickly and return to her mission. "No response, Admiral." "Try again." Still no response. Sarithi frowned. "Move the Blade of Morning to intercept. Have them bring the vessel aboard for inspection." "Yes, Admiral." On the screen, one of the destroyers began to move from its position in the tessellation. It turned toward the unknown craft with the slow confidence of absolute power. The destroyer was 500 meters long. The unknown craft was perhaps 20. This would be simple. Then the unknown craft moved. It did not accelerate like a normal ship. It did not build speed gradually. One moment it was still. The next moment it was moving faster than Sarithi's eyes could track. It shot forward like a beam of light and passed directly through the center of the formation. Alarms screamed across every ship in the fleet. Captains shouted orders. Ships tried to turn, tried to track, tried to understand what was happening. The small craft wove between the massive warships like water flowing around stones. It moved in ways that should have been impossible. It turned without slowing. It stopped without momentum. It accelerated from nothing to near light speed in the space of a heartbeat. The Blade of Morning tried to follow. 2 other destroyers moved to cut off the craft's path. but they could not predict where it would go. Their computers could not calculate its trajectory. It was too fast, too strange, too impossible. The three destroyers collided with each other in a flash of fire and metal. Admiral Sarithi watched the tessellation break apart. Ships scattered in every direction, their captains panicking, their crews screaming. The sacred formation that had never been broken dissolved into chaos in less than 60 seconds, and the unknown craft had not fired a single weapon. It did not need to. Sarithi gripped the edge of her command console until her fingers ached. Her hearts were beating too fast. Her thoughts were spinning. In 200 years of service, she had never felt this emotion. She was afraid. "All ships," she said, and her voice was steady even though her body was shaking. "Hold position. Do not engage. Repeat, do not engage." The unknown craft continued to dance through her fleet, and Admiral Sarithi, for the first time in her long life, had no idea what to do next. The unknown craft did not fight. It did not attack. It simply moved. And that movement was the most terrifying thing Admiral Sarithi had ever witnessed. She stood frozen on the command deck of the Eternal Throne as the small gray vessel wove through her fleet like a dancer at a celebration. But this was no celebration. This was chaos. This was destruction. This was the end of everything the Empire believed about itself. "Track it," she shouted at her weapons officer. "Get a lock." "I cannot, Admiral." The officer's hands flew across his controls. Sweat dripped down his silver face. "The targeting computer cannot predict its movements. Every time I calculate where it will be, it is somewhere else." On the main screen, the craft made a turn that should have torn it apart. No ship could change direction that quickly. The forces involved would crush any crew, shatter any hull, destroy any engine. But the craft turned as if physics meant nothing to it, as if the laws of the universe were merely suggestions. It moved 3,000 kilometers in 1 second, the sensor officer whispered. His voice was hollow with shock. Then it stopped. Completely stopped. No deceleration, no momentum transfer. It simply stopped. Sarithi's mind refused to accept what she was seeing. The Empire had studied faster than light travel for millennia. They understood the mathematics of space and time. They knew what was possible and what was not. What this craft was doing was not possible, but it was happening anyway. 2 more destroyers tried to intercept the vessel. They were the Crimson Star and the Silent Victory, both veterans of dozens of battles. Their captains were skilled and experienced. They approached from opposite directions, trying to catch the craft between them. The craft accelerated toward the Crimson Star. The destroyer's captain ordered evasive action, but there was no time. The craft was too fast. It passed so close to the Crimson Star that it scraped the shields, then vanished before the weapons could fire. The Crimson Star spun wildly, its systems confused, its crew screaming. The Silent Victory tried to pull away, but the craft appeared beside it without warning. It had crossed the entire formation in less than a heartbeat. The Silent Victory's captain panicked and fired every weapon on his ship. Plasma beams and missiles filled the space around the craft. They hit nothing. The craft was already gone. "Where is it?" Sarithi demanded. I don't know, Admiral." The sensor officer stared at his screen with wide, frightened eyes. "It was there. Now, it is not. I cannot find it." For 3 long seconds, the fleet held its breath. Ships hung motionless in space, their crews searching desperately for any sign of the small gray vessel. The tessellation was ruined now. Ships had scattered in every direction. The sacred formation that had conquered civilizations was broken, and not a single shot had been fired against them. Then the craft appeared again, directly in front of the Eternal Throne. Sarithi stumbled backward. It was so close she could see details on its hull, strange markings that might have been letters, small windows that glowed with soft light, a name painted on the side in symbols she did not recognize. "Fire," she ordered. Every weapon on the Eternal Throne activated at once. The flagship carried enough firepower to destroy a small moon. Beams of pure energy lanced out toward the tiny craft. Missiles screamed through the void. The space around the vessel became a storm of destruction. The craft moved. It slipped between the beams like they were standing still. It dodged the missiles as if they were floating gently through water. It danced through the storm of fire without a single hit, then accelerated away at impossible speed. Admiral Sarithi watched it go. Her flagship had fired everything it had. The most powerful weapons in the Empire had been unleashed against a vessel the size of a shuttle. They had missed completely. "This is not possible," her first officer said. He was an old warrior, covered in scars from ancient battles. His voice was shaking. "Nothing moves like that. Nothing." But the proof was on their screens. The unknown craft continued to weave through the fleet, never slowing, never stopping, never making a mistake. It passed between warships that were trying to ram it. It dodged weapons that should have been impossible to dodge. It moved in ways that no computer could predict and no pilot could match. And then, quite suddenly, it stopped. The craft came to rest in the exact center of the formation, or what was left of the formation. Ships were scattered everywhere now. Some were damaged from collisions, others were still firing blindly at empty space. The perfect tessellation had become a cloud of confused and frightened vessels. The unknown craft hung there, motionless, as if waiting. Admiral Sarithi stared at it. Her fleet of 1,200 warships surrounded a single tiny vessel. They had enough firepower to crack planets. They had enough soldiers to conquer civilizations. They were the greatest military force in 3 galaxies, and they were completely helpless. "Admiral," the communications officer said, "we are receiving a transmission." Sarithi straightened her uniform. She forced her hands to stop shaking. Whatever came next, she would face it as an admiral of the Empire should. "Put it through," she said. A voice filled the command deck. It was unlike any voice Sarithi had ever heard. The language was strange, but somehow their translators made sense of it. The tone was casual, almost friendly, almost embarrassed. "Sorry about that," the voice said. "Didn't see you there. Is everyone okay?" Admiral Sarithi opened her mouth to respond, but for the first time in 200 years of service, she had absolutely no idea what to say. The voice from the unknown craft was the strangest thing Admiral Sarithi had ever heard. It was not threatening. It was not demanding. It sounded genuinely concerned. "Is everyone okay? I hope I didn't cause any accidents. My sensors are still a bit buggy, and I didn't realize anyone was out here." Sarithi found her voice. 200 years of military discipline pushed through her shock and gave her words. "Unknown vessel, you have violated the sovereign space of the Valorian Empire. You have caused significant damage to our fleet. You will identify yourself immediately and prepare to be boarded." There was a pause. Then the voice spoke again, and Sarithi could hear confusion in it. "Empire? What empire? I thought this sector was empty. That's why I was testing the drive out here." Another pause. "Oh no. Did I really damage your ships? I am so sorry. I was just trying to avoid hitting anything. The new drive is really fast, and I'm still learning how to control it." The command deck was silent. Every officer stared at the speakers as if they had gone mad. This was not how first contact was supposed to work. The Empire had contacted dozens of new species over the millennia. There were protocols. There were procedures. There were threats and demands and careful negotiations. There was not supposed to be apologizing. "Identify yourself," Sarithi repeated. Her voice was harder now. "Species. Homeworld. Purpose. Oh, right. Sorry. I should have started with that." The voice sounded embarrassed. "My name is Marcus Chen. I'm human. From Earth. That's a planet in the Sol system. I'm an engineer. I was testing a prototype drive system that my team has been working on for the past 5 years. We thought this area was uninhabited. I guess we were wrong." Sarithi turned to her intelligence officer. The woman was already working her console, her 4 eyes moving rapidly as she searched through databases. "Earth," the intelligence officer said slowly. "Sol system. I have no record of either. They do not appear in any of our catalogs. They are completely unknown to us." "That is impossible," Sarithi said. "We have mapped every system in 3 galaxies. Apparently we missed one, Admiral." Sarithi turned back to the speakers. "Human Marcus Chen. The Valorian Empire has ruled this region of space for 6,000 years. We have catalogued every spacefaring species. We have charted every inhabited world. How is it possible that we do not know of your Earth? 6,000 years?" Marcus Chen sounded impressed. "Wow, that's a long time. We've only been going to space for about 300 years. Started with small rockets, then space stations, then colonies on nearby planets. We just figured out how to go faster than light a few decades ago. This new drive is something different, though. Much faster. That's why I was testing it. 300 years. Sarithi felt dizzy. The Empire had been old when humans were still learning to make fire. They had conquered half a galaxy when humans were still looking up at the stars and wondering what they were. And now these humans had built something that could dance through the greatest fleet ever assembled. You say this drive is new, Sarithi said carefully. How new? We finished the prototype about 6 months ago. I've been doing test flights for the past few weeks. Each time I push it a little further, see what it can do. Marcus paused. I have to admit, I pushed it pretty hard today. Wanted to see how fast the turns could be. I didn't expect to run into anyone out here. Your ships kind of appeared out of nowhere. Your ships appeared out of nowhere, Sarithi corrected. Well, from your perspective, I guess. From my perspective, I was just flying along and suddenly there were all these big ships everywhere. Scared me half to death. I just reacted on instinct. Tried to dodge everything. Did I really cause a lot of damage? Sarithi looked at her damage reports. 3 destroyers wrecked, a dozen ships with minor damage from near misses. The tessellation completely broken. The pride of the Empire humiliated. Yes, she said. You caused damage. I feel terrible about that. Really, I do. Is there anything I can do to help? I'm not really qualified for repairs, but I have some basic tools on board. Sarithi did not know whether to laugh or scream. This human had just defeated her fleet without firing a shot, and now he was offering to help fix things with basic tools. Marcus Chen, she said. Do you understand what you have done today? I mean, I accidentally flew through your formation and scared everyone. I'm really sorry about that. It won't happen again. I'll make sure to scan more carefully before I test the drive. You have demonstrated technology that the Empire has never seen. You have shown capabilities that our scientists believe to be impossible. You have, in the space of a few minutes, changed everything we thought we knew about the universe. There was a long silence from the other end of the communication. Oh, Marcus said finally. Well, I didn't mean to do that. I was just testing my drive. It's pretty cool tech, but I didn't think it was that special. My boss will probably be excited to hear that someone else thinks it's impressive, though. Your boss? Dr. Sarah Okonkwo. She's the lead scientist on the project. I'm just the test pilot. Well, test pilot and assistant engineer. It's a small team. Anyway, I should probably head back and let her know what happened. She's going to be really interested to learn that there's a whole empire out here we didn't know about. Sarithi's mind raced. This was a test pilot, an assistant engineer, flying an experimental vehicle. This was not a warrior or a general or a leader. This was the equivalent of a student on a training exercise, and he had destroyed her formation without even trying. Marcus Chen, she said. The Empire wishes to establish formal contact with your people. Will you provide us with the location of your homeworld? Sure, I can do that. Earth's coordinates are. He rattled off a series of numbers. Come by any time. Just maybe send a message ahead so we know you're coming. We're pretty friendly, but showing up unannounced with 1,000 warships might make people nervous. Sarithi almost smiled at that. Almost. We will be in contact, she said. Great. And again, really sorry about the mess. Safe travels, everyone. The small gray craft turned slowly, as if the pilot was being extra careful now. Then it accelerated, and in the space between one heartbeat and the next, it was gone. The command deck remained silent for a long time. Admiral, her first officer finally said. What do we do now? Sarithi sat down in her command chair. She felt older than she had ever felt before. Now, she said, we go home, and we tell the Empire that the universe just became a much more complicated place. The message arrived at Imperial Intelligence Headquarters before Admiral Sarithi's fleet had even begun its journey home. It was marked with the highest priority codes. Every analyst in the building stopped what they were doing and gathered around the main screens. Director Vorn read the report 3 times. Then she read it again. The words did not change, no matter how many times she looked at them. An unknown species. An unknown technology. A single, small craft that had broken the tessellation without weapons. It was impossible. It had to be a mistake, or a joke, or a trick. But the sensor data was attached to the report, and sensor data did not lie. Find them, Director Vorn ordered. Find everything about these humans. Her analysts went to work. They traced the trajectory of the unknown craft backward through space. They searched every database for any mention of the Sol system, Earth, or humans. They contacted observation posts along the border. They activated long-range sensors. Within hours, They had found it. Earth was a small blue planet orbiting a medium-sized yellow star. It was located in a region of space that the Empire had marked as uninteresting thousands of years ago. There were no valuable minerals there, no strategic positions, no reason to visit. The survey ships had passed it by without a second glance. That had been a mistake. The analysts studied the planet. They intercepted communications. They watched ships moving in and out of the system. What they found made Director Vorn's blood run cold. Humans had existed on Earth for hundreds of thousands of years, but they had only developed technology recently. Very recently, 300 years ago. They had been confined to their single planet, using simple machines powered by burning dead plants. 200 years ago, they had learned to fly. 100 years ago, they had reached their moon. 50 years ago, they had established colonies on other planets in their system, and just a few decades ago, they had learned to travel faster than light. "This is impossible," one analyst said, staring at the data. "No species develops this quickly. It takes thousands of years to go from basic technology to space travel, tens of thousands of years to achieve faster-than-light capabilities. The humans did it in less than 3 centuries. Look at the ship designs," another analyst said. "They change every few years. New models, new capabilities. They iterate faster than any species we have ever studied." Director Vorn examined the data herself. The analyst was right. Human ships from 50 years ago looked nothing like human ships from today. They had improved their technology by enormous leaps in what the Empire would consider an eye blink of time, and then she found something that made her stop breathing. "What is this?" she asked, pointing to a file. "That is information about the craft that encountered Admiral Sarathy's fleet," the analyst said. "We managed to identify it from intercepted communications." Director Vorn read the file. Then she had to sit down. The craft was called the Horizon Runner. It was a prototype. It was experimental. It was being tested by a small private company called Chen Okonkwo Technologies. The company had 12 employees. They worked out of a converted warehouse on Earth. 12 employees in a warehouse had built something that could embarrass the greatest fleet in 3 galaxies. "There's more," the analyst said carefully. "The pilot, Marcus Chen. We found his records." Director Vorn looked at the screen. Marcus Chen was 34 years old. He had studied engineering at something called a university. He had worked as a cargo ship pilot before joining Chen Okonkwo Technologies. He had no military training. He had never been in combat. He was not a soldier. He was not a special pilot. He was an ordinary human with an ordinary job, and he had flown through the tessellation like it was nothing. "The drive system," Director Vorn said. "What do we know about it?" "Very little, Director. We have some intercepted communications, but the technical details are confusing. Our physicists have reviewed the data, and they say the operating principles are unknown to us. The drive appears to manipulate space-time in ways we did not believe possible. How long would it take us to develop something similar?" The analyst was quiet for a moment. "Our physicists estimate at least 1,000 years of research, possibly longer. They are not even sure where to begin." Director Vorn stared at the image of Earth on her screen. A small blue planet, a young species, a civilization that had been making stone tools when the Empire was already ancient, and now they had technology that the Empire could not match. "Director," another analyst said, "there is something else you should see." He pulled up more data. Director Vorn looked at it and felt her hearts freeze. "The Horizon Runner is a civilian craft," the analyst explained. "It is not military. It is not government-owned. It belongs to a private company." "I understood that. What you may not have understood is what that means." The analyst highlighted a section of the data. "Humans have many military ships, thousands of them. Their governments operate large fleets for defense and exploration. Those ships use different technology, older technology, more established technology." Director Vorn understood suddenly. "You are saying the military ships are less advanced than this civilian prototype?" "Yes, Director. The most advanced human technology is not in their military. It is in their private companies, their research labs, their universities. They develop new technology and then eventually give it to their military, years later. This changed everything. If the Horizon Runner was civilian technology, if it was experimental and new and not yet widespread, then what would humans be capable of when this technology became common? What would happen when they built military ships with these drives? How many humans are there? Director Vorn asked. Approximately 15 billion on Earth. Another 8 billion in their colonies across their solar system. Total population, approximately 23 billion. Director Vorn closed her eyes. 23 billion humans. All of them living in a society that developed technology faster than any species the Empire had ever seen. All of them, potentially capable of building drives that could dance through fleets like wind through leaves. Prepare a full report for the Imperial Council, she said. Include everything. Every detail. Every analysis. Every projection. What should I say in the summary, Director? Director Vorn thought for a long moment. 6,000 years of empire. 6,000 years of supremacy. 6,000 years of knowing that they were the greatest power in the universe. All of it had changed because one ordinary human went for a test drive. Say that we have encountered something new, she said finally. Something we do not understand. And say that for the first time in our history, the Empire may need to reconsider its place in the galaxy. The analyst nodded and began typing. Director Vorn watched the image of Earth rotate slowly on her screen. Such a small planet. Such a young species. Such terrifying potential. The Imperial Council chamber had not seen this many people in centuries. Every high official of the Empire was present. Admirals in their black uniforms. Scientists in their gray robes. Politicians in their elaborate dress. They filled every seat and lined the walls. All of them staring at the raised platform where Admiral Sarithi stood. She had told her story 3 times now. Each time, the audience grew more silent. Each time, the questions became fewer. By the end, no one was speaking at all. The data is attached to my formal report, Sarithi concluded. Director Vorn's intelligence analysis supports everything I witnessed. We have encountered a new species with capabilities beyond our understanding. The chamber remained quiet. Sarithi stepped down from the platform and took her seat among the other admirals. No one looked at her. No one seemed to know what to say. Finally, Grand Minister Tellus rose from his chair. He was old even by imperial standards, with silver skin that had faded to gray and eyes that had seen thousands of years of history. We must attack, he said. Now, before they become stronger, before they spread this technology, we gather every ship in the Empire and we destroy their homeworld. It is the only way to ensure our survival. Murmurs ran through the chamber. Some heads nodded in agreement. Admiral Krath stood up. He was the commander of the Western Fleet, a warrior with a reputation for bold action. I agree with the Grand Minister. These humans are dangerous. They must be eliminated before they become a true threat. We have 12,000 ships. They have perhaps a few hundred. The mathematics is clear. The mathematics was clear when Admiral Sarithi faced them, said a calm voice from the science section. It was Chief Physicist Tenna, a small woman with sharp eyes. 1,200 ships against 1. The mathematics said we would win. We did not. That was 1 ship with 1 pilot, Admiral Krath replied. In a full war, we would bring overwhelming force. And what if they have more such ships? Tenna asked. What if they have better ships? What if they have weapons we have never imagined? We know nothing about their true capabilities. Director Vorn's report makes clear that their military technology is different from this experimental drive. What does their military have that we have not yet seen? The chamber fell into argument. Voices rose and fell. Some demanded immediate war. Others called for caution. Some suggested isolation, sealing the borders and hoping the humans never ventured further into Imperial space. Then a door at the back of the chamber opened. Everyone fell silent. Everyone turned. Everyone watched as a figure moved slowly through the room. The Emperor had not attended a council meeting in 200 years. Most people alive had never seen him. He was ancient beyond measuring. The last survivor of the founding generation, kept alive by technologies that no one fully understood anymore. He moved with the careful steps of extreme age, supported by 2 guards who seemed afraid to touch him. He reached the central platform and stood there, looking out at the assembled leaders of his empire. His eyes were still bright, still sharp, still seeing everything. I have read the reports, he said. His voice was quiet but clear. I have reviewed the data. I have one question. The chamber held its breath. What kind of species, the Emperor said slowly, builds something that powerful and gives it to amateurs? No one answered. No one understood the question. Consider what we know, the Emperor continued. This drive technology is revolutionary. It makes our best ships look like toys. With weapons attached, it could destroy fleets. With coordination, it could threaten worlds. It is perhaps the most significant technological development in the history of the galaxy." He paused, letting his words sink in, and the humans gave it to a small private company. They let ordinary citizens test it. They allowed an engineer with no military training to fly it through unknown space. They did not hide it. They did not guard it. They did not treat it as the weapon it could become. The Emperor looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of admirals and ministers and scientists. Why would they do this? Why would any species be so careless with such power? Grand Minister Tellus frowned. They are young. They are foolish. They do not understand what they have created. Perhaps, the Emperor said, or perhaps they understand better than we do. Perhaps they live in a society where such advances are common, where breakthrough follows breakthrough so quickly that even the most remarkable technology becomes ordinary, where progress happens so fast that they cannot stop to worry about who controls it. He turned to face Admiral Sarithi directly. "You spoke with this human, this Marcus Chen. What was your impression of him?" Sarithi thought carefully before answering. "He was friendly, Your Majesty. Polite. Genuinely concerned about the damage he had caused. He seemed completely unaware that he had done anything remarkable. To him, it was just a test flight that went slightly wrong. Just a test flight," the Emperor repeated. "An ordinary day, an ordinary person, and he changed everything we know about the universe without even trying." He moved to the edge of the platform, looking out at the crowd. "If we attack the humans, we may win. Or we may face technology we cannot imagine, deployed by a species that innovates faster than we can respond. We may start a war that ends with the destruction of our empire. But if we do not attack," Admiral Krath protested, "they will grow stronger. They will spread. Eventually they will come for us anyway." "Will they?" the Emperor asked. Did Marcus Chen seem interested in conquest? Did he seem interested in war? Or did he seem interested in exploration, in discovery, in testing the boundaries of what is possible? No one answered. "We have built our empire on conquest," the Emperor said. "We have always believed that power must be taken, controlled, guarded. But the humans seem to believe something different. They seem to believe that power should be shared, explored, given to anyone who can use it well." He was quiet for a long moment. "I have ruled this empire for 6,000 years. I have seen civilizations rise and fall. I have made countless decisions about war and peace. And I tell you now that this is the most important decision we have ever faced." The Emperor turned and began walking back toward the door. His guards moved with him, ready to catch him if he stumbled. "We will not attack the humans," he said without looking back. "We will not hide from them. We will go to them openly, honestly, and we will ask them to teach us." "Teach us?" Grand Minister Tellus sounded shocked. "The Empire does not learn from others. The Empire conquers." The Emperor stopped. He turned slightly, and there was something like a smile on his ancient face. "The Empire has conquered half a galaxy in 6,000 years, he said. "The humans went from burning plants for fuel to dancing through our fleets in 300 years. If we want to survive the next 6,000 years, we would be wise to learn how they do it." He continued toward the door. "Send an embassy to Earth. Send our best scientists, our brightest minds. Tell them we come in peace. Tell them we come to learn." The door closed behind him. The chamber erupted into chaos. Arguments flew back and forth. Some cheered the Emperor's wisdom. Others condemned his weakness. But Admiral Sarithi sat quietly, remembering Marcus Chen's cheerful voice, his genuine concern, his casual apology for accidentally humiliating the greatest military power in history. What kind of species builds something that powerful and gives it to amateurs? The kind of species, she thought, that is going to inherit the universe. And perhaps, if the Empire was smart enough and humble enough and brave enough, they might be allowed to come along for the ride. The galaxy would never be the same. But as Sarithi looked toward the future, she realized that might not be a bad thing. It might be the best thing that ever happened to them.